Today's guest is Rosalind Obala. She is wonderful journalist based in Kenya, and she is affiliated with the Standard Group, and she possessed experience of over 12 years. We were together at one of Chinese visit that was related to the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And why I requested her for interview because last US election, she was there for coverage, for the press coverage. So thank you very much, Shobana. And
Thank you.
uh, and first, I want to ask this question: that what was your experience when you were there in the last election, when President Trump was unexpected? Because I was not expecting that he is going to win the election. What was your experience?
Thank you, Matab. I covered the last elections where Trump was facing off with Democratic candidate then Hillary Clinton. And the perception and even the ratings and even the media uh, opinions put Hillary way ahead of Trump. But on the voting day, he pulled a surprise when he actually won majority of the blue states, some of the blue states, and even the swing vote states that were predicted to go the Democratic way. And it was actually a surprise to everybody because even the media house that I was attached to in Virginia had predicted that Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president and actually the first female president of the US, but that was not the case. As much as she won the popular votes, she was not able to get the votes to take her to Capitol Hill.
What was the major reason?
Um, you know, the US elections are not won based on the popular votes, but it's this term is disappearing. It's through the electoral college.
Electoral college,
So
yes.
in this, yes. So in this case, it's not how many congressmen or women you have, how many votes you have, but it's the electoral college, the specific states. How many states do you get? So in this case, Trump had more electoral college votes as opposed to Hillary.
Ma'am, after 4 years of performance, because now US elections are again around the corner. So, are you going again for the coverage? And what is your personal assessment? Being a journalist, we don't give personal assessment, but President Trump is a quite unique president because he termed the
Yes,
journalists with the fake news. Whenever you
yes,
asked a critical question, he would reply fake news. So, what is
yes.
your overall assessment that what is going to
Uh,
happen?
fa- First to start with, this year will not be able to go to cover the elections because we had the issue
Because
of
of
the
COVID?
COVID.
Okay,
Yes, which has restricted movements, and even in terms of the paperwork and all that, it was not possible.
okay.
But we are following up the ongoing electoral process, the campaigns. I was able to watch the first presidential debate and the second one recently,
Okay.
and also the debates among the vice presidents, candidates. And for me, from where I sit, I've seen the opinion polls again put Joe Biden ahead of President Trump,
Mhm.
and I think it's a close call
Of course.
because it's something that sits well with the U.S. voters. And as much as we can do the predictions and the opinions, It all boils down to the voting day.
Okay.
And just like what we had in 2016 when Trump was talking about the electoral fraud and the plans by the Democrats to rig elections, which had never been a vocabulary for the US elections, we are again getting the same this election where Trump is talking about he's not so much confident about the absentee votes, and
Mm.
he's telling Americans to go and ensure they do the paper ballot to just be sure that they have voted their candidate. Again, there was the issue of the Russian people interfering with the elections in 2016. Again, we are hearing the same in these coming elections. So we will wait and see what actually come out in the elections next month.
And during the presidential debates, which I have also heard the recent one, they were discussing about the issue of tax evasion, and Joe
Yes.
Biden was talking about the tax evaded by the President Donald Trump.
Mm.
Who is giving more solid arguments? What is your thought?
Whichever way, they are fantastic candidates. They have their reasoning because, again,
Yes,
being that I'm not an American voter,
of
I
course.
can only peg, yes, I can only peg what they think, because, again, as a candidate, you need to speak to your voters and resonate with them. But when it comes to the issue of tax declaration and tax evasion, in the second debate, actually, Joe Biden challenged President Trump to make public his tax returns.
Yes,
And he even claimed that he has not been paying the due taxes, that he's been paying lower than what is expected. And he said he, as a candidate, he was able and he owed it to the American people to declare his tax return, which President Trump has not done, and he has continued to run his businesses even when he is the president.
president.
And he also raised the issue of offshore accounts, and he talked about even an account in China where he was telling the president that you're still doing business outside the country, and being the head of state, you have an edge over others in terms of the business prospects, and you owe it to the American people. So I know this is one of the thorny issues in the presidential campaign, and the Americans also want to know, because remember in 2016, it was an issue again when Trump was challenged to declare his tax return and his worth, but he did not do that. And the same is coming again 4 years after he has served his first term.
Ma'am, another thing, as you know, the unfortunate incident of police cop in New York a few months back, do you think that racism will be an issue in the next presidential election?
Sure, it will be an issue because it has actually been an issue. And I remember in the first presidential debate, the moderator actually challenged the President Trump to call out what has been going on, the racist, the white people, the white supremacy that has actually forced the blacks and Hispanics to actually arm themselves and defend themselves, because this is the first time that we are seeing some states actually slating to civil war that we saw in the past during Martin Luther King's time and the
Yes.
revolutionists. But we are seeing the same actually happening now, where there are those states that people actually stay in fear. And remember, people even other countries look up to America to be the big brother. So there are some of issues that when we see, especially the security situation deteriorating, then it's a matter of concern. And I think that's why it has emerged as a serious issue during the debates and even the coverage of the presidential candidates. How do they call out these gangs? How do they call out the extremists? How do you appeal to them to ensure there's actually peace and coexistence among all Americans?
Ma'am, as you know, there are institutions, and they're very strong institutions in the United States, and that is their basic strength. But first time I am hearing this from different avenues that it will be a crucial election because it, President Trump, in case of defeat, he may not accept the outcome of the election. So in that case, what will happen? The judiciary will decide, or what is the mechanism?
Actually, this is the first time you're hearing a presidential candidate saying that he might not accept the presidential outcome.
Yes.
But that is why the courts are there. And you just talked about strong institutions in the US.
Yes.
Remember, this is not the first time that we are having this issue of a disputed presidential elections.
Yes.
Remember, during George Bush and Al Gore,
Yes.
the Supreme Court
Have
actually
decided.
stepped in and they were able to make a decision. And we have seen one of Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court is actually going through the vetting process before the Senate. And we just hope that if that is actually affirmed and the candidate is appointed, then it will be an edge for Trump in deciding the election outcome. But we hope that maybe that will not be there because that can only go to the Supreme Court if there is no clear winner. But if he is defeated in the Electoral College, as was the case with Hillary, I think it will be a tall order for him to actually disown the election outcome.
Another thing, there is increased polarization everywhere, but especially in the United States, where first time in recent history, President Trump termed CNN reporter whenever he asked critical question at the White House, he was asked fake news. So, how much it's difficult to see a journalist when an independent journalist on asking question, the reply is fake news. It's increased polarization, but I haven't seen up to such an extent. What's your view about this kind of reply of the fake news? Because everyone, if the president of the country is replying a journalist fake news, I think it's unfair.
I think US is one of the countries that have stood up for fundamental rights and freedom of the press, freedom of expression, and
Yes.
it is a country that other
Amendment 1, I
countries
think, there.
look up to, even though the US has not been so much about the rights of journalists as we see in the Scandinavian countries that have actually stood very strong for press freedom. But I think it didn't start today because even during the campaigns for Trump in 2016, he actually accused the media of taking sides and actually supporting his opponent, that was Hillary Clinton then. And that is a perception and the disconnect that actually took him to the White House because he has never actually opened and trusted the media. And that is why he decided to use the alternative media, because we see Trump more on the social media platform where he engages with the citizen journalism, as opposed to the legacy media where he's supposed to actually channel his agenda for the US. And you can see that he actually coined this issue of fake news, and he keeps on dismissing the media every time, the credibility of the media, that this is fake news, and he would rather use his own open space in the social media to actually put his facts right. But I think again this has called out the legacy media that they need to go beyond, because even this election, Trump is still crying foul and saying the media is not treating him as it is treating the other candidates. And you've heard him so many times saying that the line of questioning that is I'm subjected to is not the same line of questioning that the other candidates are. I'm always on the spot all the time. And he can even predict and say that this is what I expected to come out from the media.
Ma'am, last two questions. What would be the major issues that are going to impact the US elections? Economy, diplomatic relations, health coverage, employment, taxes? What are the major two or three issues?
I think you've just mentioned them. One of the main issues is the issue of the COVID, the global pandemic, and how the Trump administration has handled the same,
Responded. Yes.
because we have seen so many deaths, and they have accused the president of not taking this matter very serious. Just like President Trump has always referred this disease to a Chinese virus,
Yes.
but the aspect of intervention by the US has rather been a bit slow, and even the intervention and even the public literacy has not been seen so much from his federal administration. The other issue is about immigration. Remember, immigration was a serious issue in 2016, and he talked about even building the wall between Mexico. So I think that will still be another issue, and that is why if you look at the side of Joe Biden and Harris Kamala, then you realize that there's so many people, the blacks, that have actually realigned with the Democrats because of their immigration policies. And then there's also the issue of the health that you're talking about. Remember, Trump has been under fire over the Obamacare, that he said that he will dismantle and come up with another policy for Americans, which he has not been able to do so. So I think these are some of the issues. And then you also talked about diplomacy. And just the other day, he was talking about the peace agreement between Sudan and
Israel.
Israel. We also saw him the other day talking, faulting Ethiopia about going ahead to build the dams. We have seen him trying to reach out to the Palestinian nation, and they had issues when they bombed one of the top spies of the Palestinians. And we have also had seen him trying to reach out to North Korea and the rest. So, and even the China-US relations has actually deteriorated under Trump. So I think these are some of the issues that will actually take center stage in the next election. And you also talked about the issue of employment. And I think the President Trump has been very confident that under his regime, he has been able to double the number of jobs opportunities. He has been able to bring back overseas jobs, some of them which were in China. And I think that will also be another crucial aspect of this
Ma'am,
campaign.
thank you very much. One last, and please reply me briefly. Uh,
Yes.
Pakistan and Kenya had very good economic relation, and we have adopted a policy to look towards Africa, and especially I like Kenyan tea because that is very good. So, do you have any thoughts how Pakistan and African countries can promote their economic and trade ties?
Yeah, I think it all boils down to enhancement of bilateral ties
Okay.
between the countries and how best each can exploit their potentials to ensure that the relationship and the trade is a win-win relation. Because what has always been there is that countries that come into Africa tend to be the receiving end as opposed to both sides benefiting. You have just talked about the Kenyan tea export that you people like, but from the other side, what are the major exports to Kenya that we get from Pakistan? How can we relate? Because I know the rice, the
Right.
rice from Pakistan, yeah,
Very
it's
tasty.
so wonderful, and it's so much in Kenya. So now these are the kind of bilateral ties that can be enhanced. I saw the Kenyan government just sent the deputy head of mission and a new officer who is will be coming to Pakistan, and I
Okay.
think that just shows how connected and how valued the Kenyan government values Pakistan.
Ma'am, thank you very much. And I
Yes.
hope that this time I will not face any technical glitches. Thank you very much.
Please, I hope so too. And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for
Thank
the
you. Bye
interview.
bye.
Yes.